An emerging pattern many of our viewers at Horrors in History may have noticed, nearly 20 episodes into our channel's journey, is that many horrors throughout history have been caused either directly or indirectly by acts of war. A tragic yet sometimes necessary nightmare humans endure on a daily basis. Thought for centuries to be a devastating aspect of life only humans could perpetrate. But what if the act of warfare wasn't so human after all? During the early 1970s, in the eastern lands of Tanzania on the African continent, wildlife conservationists and researchers, including famed primatologist Jane Goodall, witnessed something they previously conceived as having been unimaginable. A troop of chimpanzees in the Gombe National Park was observed to splinter, dividing into two factions. What happened next would spiral into a brutal 4-year civil war that would come to be known as the Gombe Chimpanzee War. A shocking revelation for the scientific community, and a true horror in history. Before the war, the Gombe National Park had been established as a research center when Dr. Jane Goodall first began her studies on primates in the 1960s. This started a long relationship between Goodall and the chimpanzees in the region as the research center expanded its studies. It was here that Goodall and her colleagues observed numerous troops of chimpanzees, numbering up to 40 members each. Following their eating and migration habits, the researchers discovered something perplexing. One of the groups, the Kasakela tribe, appeared to be splintering. Originally comprised of 14 male chimpanzees and about as many females, tensions began to brew when a leading alpha male of the tribe was deposed and a new alpha, Humphrey, took the crown. This did not sit well with two other male chimps, named Hugh and Charlie, who felt Humphrey was too weak to lead effectively. Because of this, the two dissenting males led 5 males and 3 females to the southern region of the tribe's territory. 8 males and 12 females remained north. Eventually, Hugh and Charlie's band of separatists were renamed by Goodall and her colleagues as the Kahama, as they spent more time in the south, mingling less with their former Kasakela members to the north. Humphrey was left with parting words of distrust and disrespect from Hugh and Charlie. They believed Humphrey to be weak. He would prove them wrong. By 1974, the Kasakela and Kahama, once whole, were now 2 entirely separate communities. Over the 2 years of separation, researchers observed typical territorial behavior seen in chimpanzees and other non-human primates before. Occasional encounters between the tribes would result in displays of aggression, like stick throwing and vocalizations, though no more than that. But what began in January 1974 between the Kasakela and the Kahama would leave many in disbelief. One day, a male chimpanzee named Godi of the Kahama tribe was feeding in a tree. Without warning, 6 male Kasakela leapt from the branches and threw Godi to the ground. The male Kasakelas, accompanied by 1 female, proceeded to pin Godi down while others bit and beat him with a large rock for nearly 10 minutes until he ceased to move. Pleased with their work, the Kasakela celebrated with jubilant hoots and the waving of leaved branches around Godi's body before returning to their territory. Researchers observed Godi then drag himself into the jungle, where he is believed to have died. This was the first observed instance of calculated murder by non-human primates in the wild. And to the researchers' astonishment, it would not end there. After Godi was ambushed, the Kasakela moved on to another Kahama male, Day, who was viciously beaten and maimed. Day's wounds were horrific, leading to his death soon after. The next Kahama to be targeted was an elder named Goliath, who before the war started, got along just fine with most of the other males, observed to be one of the friendliest. Regardless, an outfit of Kasakela, including their leader, Humphrey, once believed weak, tracked down Goliath and attacked. One of Goodall's researchers who witnessed the attack was mortified to see a Kasakela attempting to tear a leg from Goliath's body as the combatants struggled. Humphrey's brutality in leading the Kasakela in such attacks only grew. Some Gombe researchers were even somewhat afraid of Humphrey, as he was quite large and known to throw rocks. Only 3 Kahama males remained after Goliath's murder. One of these 3 Kahama males, Charlie, was the next to be targeted by a Kasakela war party. While researchers were not able to observe Charlie's attack, they did receive reports from locals of hearing frightening sounds from the chimpanzees near the stream that runs through the park. A few days later, Dr. Goodall's team discovered Charlie's body near the stream, bearing evidence that he was killed by other chimpanzees. The last remaining Kahama male, Sniff, survived on his own for a year, but soon met the same fate as his other tribe members and was killed by a Kasakela male the researchers had named Satan. While the majority of killings primarily involved the male members of the 2 tribes, the female Kahama were not spared. Once the male Kahama were dealt with, the Kasakela turned their attention to the females. One of the last Kahama to be killed was an elderly female known as Madame B by researchers. Of the remaining Kahama females, 2 vanished and 3 were attacked and abducted by the Kasakela to bolster their numbers. Furthermore, the stress the conflict put upon the tribes became most evident with one Kahama female named Passion. During the conflict, Passion was observed to have become so psychologically affected by the wanton bloodshed that she began to seek out, kill, and eat the infant chimpanzees belonging to her own tribe. The first instance of cannibalism formally documented in a non-human primate. Over a 4-year period, the Kasakela methodically hunted down and wiped out an entire troop of chimpanzees in a savage civil war, which allowed the tribe to expand its own territory unimpeded and absorb what once belonged to the Kahama. Of the deadly conflict observed by Goodall's research team, the accoladed primatologist herself describes in her book, Through a Window, My 30 Years with the Chimpanzees of Gombe, the psychological toll of her observing the war. She states, quote, "For several years I struggled to come to terms with this new knowledge. Often when I woke in the night, horrific pictures sprang unbidden to my mind. Satan, one of the apes, cupping his hand below Sniff's chin to drink the blood that welled from a great wound on his face. Old Rudolph, usually so benign, standing upright to hurl a 4-pound rock at Godey's prostrate body. Jomyo tearing a strip of skin from Day's thigh. Fegan charging and hitting again and again the stricken, quivering body of Goliath, one of his childhood heroes." Dr. Jane Goodall's reporting of the Gombe Chimpanzee War was a hard pill for the scientific community to swallow. Previous overlaps of human and non-human primate behaviors had not been previously observed before the Gombe War. Some believed Goodall was over-attributing human characteristics to the chimpanzees, whom she had become welcomed by as an observer. Others believed a banana-feeding station the research team had installed in the area had exacerbated tensions, leading to the attacks. However, a recent study that analyzed new findings in the researchers' notes, which had become digitized over the decades, found that quantifiable data surrounding cohesions and subsequent schisms in chimpanzee communities pointed to overlapping human and primate behaviors concerning cliquishness amidst social upheaval in chimpanzee populations. From this new study, it was concluded that a power struggle of leadership in the original Kasakela tribe drove a wedge between its members. Tensions were also believed to have been driven by a lower than usual infertility rate amongst the female members of the tribe, which could explain the Kasakela's later abductions of Kahama females following the eradication of their male counterparts. Since the Gombe Chimpanzee War, other non-human primates have been documented engaging in methodical warfare. Spider monkeys, for example, a non-ape subspecies of primate, were observed in Mexico, traveling in war parties deep into rivals' territory, hunting for targets. These and other findings have gone on to make many in the scientific community conclude that human and primate behaviors do overlap, even in the most darkest of ways. The similarities in social hierarchies documented in both human and non-human primates is believed to be connected to our shared ancestry, where such social behaviors are thought to have contributed to humankind's own development of warfare. A sort of warfare inherently visceral and calculated in nature, that one will be forgiven in believing that it could not exist in nature. However, this belief was proven false in a war between apes that left humans astounded by the ramifications, making the Gombe Chimpanzee War a true horror in history. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, especially if you are a new viewer. Many of our new viewers have not yet subscribed, so feel free to do so today. And leave us a comment below if you have any shocking historical suggestions you would like seen covered on the channel. Thanks for watching Horrors in History.